have two different brushes here. The first brush is our watercolor brush. This is actually a paintbrush for acrylic or oil, depending on what you're wanting. However, I have been using it as a watercolor brush that is bigger so that we can get more water onto the paper. So the first thing I want you to do is to dip your paintbrush in the water, and you're going to gently push it down until you see that there are no bubbles. That way there is no air in between the bristles and you are able to get as much water as possible. And we have this paper towel here so that we can dry it off a little bit. Then I want you to paint the water onto about half of your paper. Once you have done that, what we are doing right now is we are painting wet on wet, which means that our paper is wet and our watercolor is wet. And I'm going to dry off my brush a little bit, and I'm going to dip my new paintbrush into some of the paint. Let's start with our yellow. This is straight pigment. There's no water in this that I've added. It is straight pigment. So the water that we need is already on here. So I dip it in, make sure I get those bubbles out for my first time dipping, and I'm going to just put a little tab dip on the side so that I can get some extra water off. And now I'm just going to paint along just however random you would like it to be on that wet part. All right, now I'd like to switch colors, so I'm going to dip it in my water and I'm going to dry off just a little bit, and let's switch to green. So I'm going to do just a small amount of green. The darker the color, the less pigment that you need. And I'm going to paint, oh yeah, that's a nice green. I'm going to paint in the corner, bring it out, and I'm going to mix it with the yellow. If I need to dip it back in, I want to clean it off first and just dip it or dab it onto the paper. Add some more green, make it bright, and we want it to bleed into the other colors. And from there, I'm now getting into an area that is not wet enough. So I'm going to dry off or rinse off my brush, dry it off. Going to go back to my original brush, get it wet, start adding some more water. This time I'm going to leave about 1/3 of it alone. I'm going to switch now. I have regular blue and I have turquoise. I'm going to start with the turquoise. It's lighter. And I'm going to start adding some dots. And now I can blend them in. And you're getting some new colors here when you mix it with the green. Okay, so I'm done with my turquoise. I'm going to set it back over. And now I'm going to take out the dark blue, rinse off my brush, dab it onto the paper. And now we're going to go into the blue and do just about the same thing. All right, this is my darker blue. There it is. Paint it in. I can mix and get some bright colors in there. We want that bleeding color to happen. Now, because I have so much blue in the middle of my page, and I'm using different colors, I can start adding some more water if I want to lighten it up. Add some water. Now, this is all dry over here. So if you would like, pick a color and see what it's like on the dry, and just maybe make some lines with that color just to see the difference between wet on dry and wet on wet. And then maybe add some water to it and you'll get a really light color. The more water you add, the lighter your pigment is going to be. So if you are interested in making some textures, Like, let's add some yellow back into this side. If you are looking to add some texture to your painting, you can always get a paper towel. Like if you have too much water, or your painting is too wet, you can always use a paper towel and you can dab it. I'm just going to bring the color over to fill in all those white spaces. So I'm going to put too much water in this area, and let's see what we can do. Add a little more water. You don't have to do this, you can just watch, but I'm going to add too much water, and let's see what kind of texture we can add with a paper towel. So I'm going to take a little chunk of paper towel, scrunch it up, and now I'm going to dab it, pushing down onto what we've done. Sometimes it gives it a cloud effect. If you had a different kind of paper towel, it might give you something better. I'm not seeing much texture, but if a kid makes a mistake and needs to lighten it up, this is always an option. Now, if we put too much water on it, we start to get these little beading effects. I'm not seeing it, but it's basically the paper having too much water and it's taking it down. Once this is dry, you can use this as a background for other artwork or for labels. So I have students that are currently working on a project where they need to label things and put it on a trifold board. So for example, they're learning decimals, so maybe this is their title. And then if they want, they can decorate it. They can use a certain font that they like. I like to just add a little bit of my own flair to it, just to jazz it up a bit. Maybe they want some zigzags. So any little project that you want, this is a great way to have a background.